Welcome, finalists, to episode 12 of The Vault. We are here with a very special episode. This is our breakdown of the Pro League splits and round robin. We're also joined by the one and only Burritah Supreme, who is here to break down stuff with us. I'm excited for it. I am joined, as always, by my co host, Rio. How's it going, Rio?
It's going wonderful today, and today's episode is sponsored by, well, you guessed it, Pro Hubs, because everything today that we're going to talk about, minus a couple of little things, is all about Pro Hubs. So we are happy that they are our sponsor, and we love them, and we're going to give them as much love as we can today, and really kind of showcase everything that we've done so far in the Pro Hubs and Pro Leagues. But before we dive into that, let's take a quick look at a past event that just happened. There are other things that happened within kind of the competitive scene, and there was a Siiouper Cup. I hope I said that right, which was kind of happened on the French side. I didn't get to watch this yet, but I believe Burritah, you actually did. So you want to kind of give us a quick rundown of what Siiouper Cup was?
Yeah, it was a really interesting event. It was cool to watch, and it was basically the whole format was one Ruby in every team, one content creator in every team, and then one viewer in every team. I don't know exactly how that was put together, but it was really interesting to see how these groups played together. And like, I don't speak any French. So it was a little hard for me to follow, but it was hype. Teams were having fun. It looked really freaking cool. So I had a really good time with it. But yeah, it looked like a really fun event and was sponsored by our goat here, actually, Broxton. Crash,
Broxton the goat.
Chief PR officer. He was actually the one who helped fund that event as well. So major shout out to him, making things happen really everywhere he goes, helping on the EU side, helping on the NA side, helping on pro leagues, like just an absolute goat. So shout out to him.
Oh, he is fantastic. He's everywhere. Like you said, he's doing what he needs to do. And yeah, in terms of future events, just more Pro Hubs. It's coming up. We will have a link to the Siiouper Cup in the description when the VOD comes out, so you can watch that if you want to. But of course, as we move into a discussion of the future Pro Hubs, we do want to just very briefly, because we will definitely have a conversation with Burritah in future as well, where we dive deep into the mind of this goat. But I want to just real quickly make sure for those of you who aren't aware, Burritah, who are you and what do you do in the scene?
Yeah, so I'm Burritah Supreme. I guess technically, I think the title I made up for myself is the production and talent manager for Pro League. So I guess technically that's my title, but mostly just kind of wrangling folks for the stream, both casters and players, and doing a bit of the camera work in the game as well. I kind of manage the overlays and stuff like that, and kind of make show whatever's on stream is always kind of up to me, so I can kind of just like add random stuff like this if I want to. And that's kind of what I do behind the scenes. So yeah, that's mostly just wrangling folks and trying to put on a good show.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very humble way of putting kind of what you do, Burritah. I kind of know Burritah as, I call him the goat father of the competitive scene. He's been around for a very long time and really just involved in it more than kind of most people. So it's just really exciting to have him on here. But we got to ask you the question that we ask basically everybody that comes on the show. And what was your first experience with the finals, Burritah?
So I've been a long time Battlefield fan, and really, once I realized it, actually, once Embark was created, that I've loved everything Rob has ever made. Battlefield 1942 was one of my favorite games. Like, I played that when it came out, playing Battlefield Vietnam with my friends and like banging music while you're like flying a helicopter and playing war, like nothing quite like it. Mirror's Edge was one of my favorite games of all time. And then Battlefield 2042 came out, and it was painful to play as a longtime fan of the game. And as that game came out, and was just such a pain. I was like, gosh, what the heck happened over there at DICE? And then all of a sudden I saw Embark Studios is basically all of the best folks from DICE went over and made their own game studio. So I was stoked about this when there was like some teaser images and I just knew that Embark existed. So I was very locked in, like well before this game even had a trailer, before it came out, anything. I just like knew this was the game I wanted to play.
Yeah, and it turned out to be an absolute banger of a game that we really enjoy. And so it's, getting to that, we have an absolute banger of a video because we are going to get into a full discussion of the Pro League. So we have a trailer with some of the best moments from the play dates that we're going to show for you real quick. And then we're going to jump into a deep dive of the actual Pro League itself. So enjoy.
And I can't turn off our mics for this, fellas, so we just gotta roll with it. So I can't give you those quiet production notes behind the scenes, but let's watch this amazing trailer that Young cooked up for us.
One come through for Bird Nuggets. This is everything, Mickey. They need to get there in time. They do. They stop the steal. 50 reload. He's able to do it before you get that super.
Oh, the OPG on the Siiouper. BMO absolutely beaming right now, finishing off the rest of the team.
Lightly over to the sideline here. The gateway has been placed. Then come up from above.
Play commit doing so much, just controlling this team fight.
At this point, you have it. You've got it done.
There's no way.
He dashes around. Look at the movement.
Aim point taking down a lot of players there. Great use of the Goo gun. Oh, unbelievable techers.
Gangala, they try to jump in. Oh, they do. The D-Mat hits.
Try and go for the steal. And the winch is huge. It doesn't work out, though.
He can't do anything yet. No, he still takes it. One versus three.
All right, yeah, that was a banger video. Like you said, massive shout out to Young for putting that together. Did a bunch of incredible work on that piece, and it's exciting. It got me really hyped. I couldn't stop watching that thing on repeat, actually.
Yeah, no, he did an amazing job, and I think it really sums up kind of the absolute insanity that was everything leading up to the playoffs starting here soon. And I think that kind of is a great introduction to kind of where are we now, guys? So we want to have a deep dive into kind of what this season was and kind of where are we? What are people watching? Kind of what stage in the league are we in right now?
Yeah, and now we've actually just completed the main regular season. So this is the first time we've ever had an opportunity to play really a long form kind of season since Breakout. So this was 8 play days, NA and EU. And after each team has played 32 maps, we have now completed the regular season and have our roster set for the playoffs.
Yeah, 32 games each, and in total, I think it even said in the video, it was 196 games. Do I have that number right?
I think it's 194.
I believe so.
Yeah.
194, off just a little bit, but yeah, that's an insane amount of games that have been cast and streamed and shown, and that doesn't even include the qualifiers, right? That's just the start of the league. Yeah, so there was even more games before that, so that in itself is just a really testament to how far we have come and where we are now. But yeah, I am hyped as we kind of have moved now into the playoff side. But now, Waltz, what are your thoughts on the season so far? Like, how did we get here? And just kind of, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like you said, we went through the qualifiers, which were 3v3, and then we moved into Cashout. And what I enjoyed about this was there hasn't ever been a tournament that's run Cashout quite like this. We've seen tournaments like Breakout that have used a sort of a smaller version of this, but nobody has done it to this extent. Nobody has done the amount of games that we've put into the Pro League. It's just been a lot more... It's a lot more extreme and a lot more thorough, which I think we've seen as we kind of look into our stats, because you're going to see there's some really interesting trends in terms of the number of kills, in terms of like total cash out, second place. There's a lot of really interesting things that we can pull out regarding cash out, because so often the question is, well, isn't cash out just imbalanced for pro play? And I think what we can take away here, and we're going to hope to dig into over the next little bit as we look into the stats, is this actually a game mode that works when you do it over a group stage and you can play a lot of games? And I think it is so far, as we start to see as we look into the stats a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree too. I'm kind of at this weird part. When we were coming into this league, I didn't think that it was the right format. I really kind of was against it. I felt like it was just going to be too chaotic. And also from a casting perspective, it's difficult. There's a lot that goes on. You constantly have at least 2 fights going on, and usually on opposite sides of the map. So to me, that was kind of something that I was worried about. But I gotta say, as the more we got into it, the more games that were played, the more the teams got mixed up, I really felt like it was a good proving ground for all the teams. And then what's wild, as you're going to see in a minute, is I think that the stats back that up. Looking at the stats last night, trying to like comprehend it and wrap my head around everything, it's like, I think so. But yeah, I think that might be. But Burritah, before we go, so that's Waltz's thoughts, my thoughts. What are your thoughts on cash out kind of as a competitive forum before we see all the stats?
I think if we had ranked cash out, I think that would help a lot of our issues. I think it was a lot of fun to watch. I think it was very entertaining. I could see why maybe the players didn't all love the format. We saw a lot of griefing. We saw a lot of cheeky doubles. We saw a lot of, like, we saw just third partying being its own meta, like come to its own, and then eventually like quit being a thing as much this season. So like we really saw a lot happen, and I am really hoping that we can get a ranked mode, but like I kind of liked it. I think the regular season was maybe a little too long, but as someone who watched absolutely every single game, maybe that's just like my take.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Like there are definitely some improvements, and hopefully we can get the ranked game modes, and also with just some maybe adjustments to the structuring of the season. But I liked what you said, where we actually did see meta changes throughout the season, where we started out not seeing any doubles, and then we started seeing a lot of doubles, and then towards the end we saw again kind of very few doubles, and I think that was really interesting to see kind of teams learning how to handle competitive cash out, especially because this rule set was a little bit different in how kind of it was addressed. You don't have to be just top 2. You really want to focus on just top 1. And so I think that kind of starts to bring us in as we want to look towards some of our stats, because obviously there were a couple teams that really stood kind of head and shoulder above the rest. At the very least, sort of on NA, it was Team Burritah, and then on EU, it was both of the Aimerz teams, Aimerz Red and Blue, finishing in the top 2 slots, which is kind of crazy. But I'm curious, so if we could actually bring up, say, Aimerz Red versus Burritah in terms of our stats, because this is where we're going to start diving into these teams a little bit and really start to get to explore, like, what did these teams do differently? Can we take anything away from these statistics? And
Yeah, give me just a sec to pull those up.
No worries.
Red versus Bricked. And then my handy dandy thingy over here. Oh no. Give me just a sec. Sorry. Caught me off guard.
I know.
And normally I'm not on the spot like this. Yeah, I can allow you guys to kind of yap and cover for me. And
yeah, was there anything that surprised you, Rio, in sort of as we got, like, as with the changing meta and seeing how teams adjusted to the cash out? Was there anything that surprised you, especially, like, did you watch any of like the Bricked like Playday videos and things like that?
I think that the thing that surprised me is that we did have teams that more or less people would avoid, and Bricked was a good example of that. And it wasn't like every cash out in both, in the entire map, but it was just still just weird to see. I often compared it to kind of like being in a room with a monster. Like you don't want to go address the monster, you want to leave it be, let it be on its own. I think that it was Merch who called it like the sleep paralysis demon, and I really liked that because that's what it felt. It felt like just this like force that you had never that you didn't want to encounter, and I thought that was wild. And I saw it the most basically with the two teams that we're seeing up here.
Yeah, Bricked versus Aimerz Red. Looking at a little bit at that cross regional first place. And you can't say, because one of the things that I noticed was that in terms of points wise, EU was actually way closer overall. EU
Interesting.
From the top, from first to sixth, it was 700 points difference, whereas on the NA side it was 1,100 points difference between first to sixth. So
wow.
Brick definitely. Now you can argue, is Brick the better team, or did they have an easier region? Now I'm sure that debate is going to go on until the end of time. But Burritah and Rio, I'll open up to you here, kind of as we're looking at these stats. Was there anything like? What are your thoughts on that? Is this just Brick kind of proving that they knew how to play against the teams they were playing against, or how does that sort of play in your head?
Burritah, I'm curious your take first.
It's hard to say. I think Bricked was so dominant within their lobbies that a lot of teams didn't even want to try and bother, and they didn't even want to try and be the second party, nor did they even want to be the third party. Whereas I felt like people were more open to challenge Aimerz Red, and maybe it's just because like Aimerz Blue was like never gonna just take it lying down. Like they were always gonna ego chow them. And I think a lot of people in EU actually were way more down to push those ego chows than they were against Bricked. Nobody wanted to push against Bricked, really. And I think Aimerz Red honestly kind of had to fight a little harder for it, if I hate to say it.
Yeah, I wish I had like a different point of view, but you basically said what I feel as well. Like the Aimerz Red seemed like nobody was just as intimidated as they were against Bricked, and it was just wild to see, especially as we got further into the league. Like the last few games, people were just like, nah, I'm not playing with them. And then you could tell that Bricked were kind of playing their own little game. Like they were having fun, they were doing off meta picks, and they were still winning because it was just that idea that like nobody wanted to mess with them, and they also, and I feel like that's also like disingenuous to like just say like, hey, people were avoiding them. They were really good too. Like anytime that there was combat, anytime that there were those challenges, I felt like they performed really well. So it's just an interesting take, I think. But in Waltz, you're the one that started this conversation. What's your takeaway on these two teams?
So I don't agree that people avoided them at all. If anything, I think Bricked actually ran at teams and kind of exercised a little more dominance over the lobbies. I don't know if you'd say, I don't know. It's impossible to really say if one region is better than the other, but I gotta be honest, if I want to look at a team, I think Bricked was just they were kind of they were a steamroller in their matches. Whereas, and I think that speaks to maybe the play style. EU is a lot more measured. They're a lot more kind of strategic in their moments. They're not going to push that advantage if they don't need to. Whereas Bricked, we're just, is there a cash out? Do we have time to go and steal it? Let's do it. Let's just go. And you can see that in the kills. I mean, over time, they had almost 60 more kills. That is indicative, and 2 point more in a higher KDA. Like that's indicative of their willingness to seek out fights if nobody was going to take one to them. If they weren't being fought, they will fight you because they know that there's no reason to stay. And I think that was maybe just a difference in play style for them. Aimerz Red was a lot more willing to kind of play both teams very much playing the macro, but Bricked was definitely more interested in being aggressive, where I think Aimerz were a lot more interested in being strategic in kind of their just overall gameplay.
Okay, yeah, no, that's an interesting take. And, as soon as you said, like, they charged at people, my head immediately became flooded with memories of, them doing exactly that. So I think that you have an interesting take on that. But let's go to we've talked about the top teams a lot. Do you guys have any teams that have stood out in your head that have made the biggest change? Like, and Burritah, will throw this to you first, but because you've seen both NA and EU, is there just one team that just looks like they went from maybe rags to riches, or even like a little bit struggling to a little bit composed? Anybody come to mind?
was that NA or EU? Just either side?
Yeah,
Either way.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, Scallywags looked like it was going to really come together there for a second. Like, I think they kind of went through like a ton of fluctuation. They looked really strong coming into Split 2 and didn't quite carry as much of that momentum. But like, oh man, I was rooting for them. My hopes were high, and I was like really stoked for them. So like, I saw a ton of change both directions, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Can we actually see Ape Squad versus Scallywags then? Because I think on the flip side of the coin, Ape Squad was a team that I think had a really, really good start. They did really, really well. And they just struggled a little bit right at the end. Like, I felt like they had some really good ideas. They were trying some really fresh stuff. But their last few play days, they couldn't quite get their feet underneath them. And especially like they went up against Brick quite a bit. They kind of got in trouble. And they ended up actually pretty close to each other in points at the end of the day. So like not that far away from each other. One good map would have gotten kind of Scallywags up a little bit higher. So the teams actually were in kind of an interesting position when you look at sort of the placements, because obviously it always comes down to placements, right? Like at the end of the day, that matters more. Like you can look at kills, you can look at KDA, but obviously the first places, Apes got less. But when you look at second places, Ape Squad actually had 12 second places, whereas Scallywags only had 3. So Scallywags, towards the end, started putting it together with a couple first places. But Ape Squad they were middle of the pack, but they were kind of on top of that middle of the pack.
Yeah, no, I think I think both of y'all have brought up an interesting point with both of these teams, because they were kind of surprising to me. Scallywags, for the people that don't know, have been around for a long time. And I mean, just look at the team members. Those are some of the biggest names kind of in the scene. And also just Ape Squad. Ape Squad has this presence to them, and they're very well known in kind of the final scene itself. And just like some of these players are insane. They're really good players, and so it has been very just interesting to see their performance. And I don't know what happened. Maybe there were some just team issues, or sometimes maybe just weird groupings. I really don't know. And then just me throwing in my team that I saw. You guys pointed out teams that I think kind of didn't live up to what you were hoping for, but I want to give a shout out to one that was kind of surprising to me, and it's the Make-A-Wish team, because I watched them from the beginning, and they seemed like they were struggling. I was really afraid that I was going to watch just somebody kind of flounder the entire league, but they have pulled it off, and like they were an underdog, and I've seen some really exciting matches from them, and I just saw what looked to me to be just some like team cohesion that wasn't there at the start that seems to be developing. I'm not singing their high praises like they were the top be-all end-all team, but I just think that's somebody to follow and to notice, because I think that they're starting to get somewhere. And you know what? Just to remind everybody, like, this is just season 0. So some of these teams that are getting their footing, I think that this is their opportunity to kind of take it and run. So that's my vote for kind of the team that had the biggest noticeable change or improvement so far.
Agreed. Yeah. Moving over and talking about teams that have like a lot of room for improvement. Not in a bad way. That's a bad way to start that sentence. Let me rephrase that. Sorry. Can you guys fill in for this? I'm so sorry. This is
Yeah, no problem.
No worries. Yeah. So where are we from there?
I guess who was another team that you were really interested in, Rio? Because I know we have Make-A-Wish, and yeah, like you said, maybe we shouldn't have been a little doom and gloom. I think we got really excited about some of these teams, and we really saw a lot of promise. And I think even if maybe it didn't pan out, we saw what some of these teams are really capable of, which is maybe what. Maybe why they stood out to us so much, not to talk down on them at all.
No. And to me, another team like that is kind of the Burnt Nuggets. They were kind of middle of the pack like the entire time. I think that they had a little bit of a rough start and then kind of found their footing. But they're just ones that kind of, and Burt Nuggets were on EU side, yeah. I think that they kind of really found their footing in it. And yeah, it was cool to see. Is there anybody that kind of like on your list that seems to have maybe fallen the most outside of the teams that or that hasn't lived up to your expectation?
Not necessarily. I mean, I had high hopes for Oni Legends. I had,
Yeah.
I was really pulling for them. I was really hoping that Reset was going to be able to get their footing a little bit more. But like, I was really rooting for all of our teams. Like, we have a lot of really amazing players in this league, and there was nobody that I was like, I hope they don't necessarily do well or anything like that. Like, a lot of really amazing teams that are a part of this. So, like, I really wanted to see everyone do well, but at the end of the day, someone has to be last. That's kind of how a league works, and I want everyone to be friends, and I want it to be a 12-way tie, but it unfortunately doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I agree. That is kind of how it works out. And let's talk a little bit just about Oni Legends, because they were the kind of shake-up in the middle of the season. They came in, the Burger Boys were kind of no more. They had their last burger, and then Oni Legends was born. Maybe they were found in the Happy Meal inside the burger box. Yeah, I had a lot of hope for them as well, but they came up against so many like odds. They came in, didn't have an established team. They made one work, and like some of the teams, Apo like had never really played in the competitive side very much, and I think that he experienced some challenge as well. And what are your thoughts on League Legends? Just kind of their entrance and just where they are now. Yeah. What are your thoughts so far?
I think actually one of the things I was really surprised on is if you look at the score lines, they did basically the same as the middle of the pack. I think actually where they maybe had some of the hardest time is that they started at such a disadvantage. I think if they started the league at the same amount of points and didn't miss they missed the first 24 maps of this, or I guess not 24, they missed the first 12 maps of the series. So they came in and were fighting a bunch of teams who were playing casual cash out, sweaty, divey, third-party craziness that, like, you don't encounter that in ranked. You don't even encounter that in World Tour. So these guys were just really up against it as far as teams that just already knew the lay of the land, and they were just up against a brick wall. And looking at their stats, they actually, like, they performed like right in the middle of the pack. So the fact that they're actually in, that they, let me get this swept over. The fact that they're in such rough shape points wise really doesn't tell the whole story. And I think it's kind of a bummer. And I really hope that we can get them back in next season and give them a chance to really come through, because look at that KD. Like, they had a 1.6. They had 442 kills. And that is merging Burger Boys and Oni Legends when it comes to the kills, just to try and give a comparable scoreline across things. But, but yeah, like that KDA of 1.6, like that's their actual scoreline, and like that's so commendable. Like that would have put you right in 5th or 6th place in NA, actually, if you started on the same footing as everybody else.
Well, then I think that brings us into a good question is, like, are there going to be teams that kind of stand out to you that might do really well in 3v3s? I mean, because it's just such a different format, and to remind people that just are tuning in that, like, switching formats is weird. It's a weird thing to do. I'm not aware of any other game where it starts off in one mode and then ends in another mode. So this is, in itself is going to be unique, but there's also just different challenges. So do you think Oni Legends has a good chance moving into this 3v3 format, especially compared to where they are now?
Let me take a look at it, because... All right, so the thing is NA is tight enough that Oni Legends can make a run for it. Like, they can absolutely still make it to the championship series if they're able to do it. I think maybe one of the hardest parts is they are going to be playing... I I think I need to double check, but I think they're playing the loser of After Hours and Dark Horse. But I think Oni Legends maybe has the most to gain from 3v3s because it's really hard to practice this. How do you practice this at a high level, cash out at a high level? 3v3s at a high level happen all the time. Teams are scrimming all the time. You know, like it's so much easier to get those reps in, whereas trying to get in 12-player cash out at a high level and with real stakes, people play very differently. Yeah. So I'm hoping, I think they really can make a run for it because they really have the most to gain in this, like in the way that this is set up.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think you're right. Like you have a lot of opportunity to grow that a lot of other teams don't, and I think that's really important. But I mean, interrupt you, Rio. Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to throw the question that I just asked Burritah. Like, so we were talking about Oni Legends and how they might have a good chance going into this 3v3. They are, Burritah looked at the stats. Seems like they can do well. They can actually make a run for it, so that's really exciting. But in your mind, are there any teams that kind of stand out that might do exceptional in the next mode, in the next 3v3 compared to Cashout?
I expect Saints 1 to kind of pop off a little bit in the 3v3. I know that some of this may have just been focus. I know that Mickey has been playing in Fragpunk a lot. Like you said, Cashout is a hard thing to scrim. It's hard to scrim. Not everyone's available, and also it's not very common. But I know that Saints 1 are very, very familiar with the 3 versus 3s. So I expect them to do very, very well. I also am kind of looking at teams like Divine Dead and Zesties. I think they have an opportunity to sort of do better than we've seen. They're on kind of the low end of things, but I wouldn't be surprised if they put up some better numbers. They're players that I've seen a lot of, and I know they can do better than the current results say. So it's an uphill battle, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do better. That's of course on the EU side. Do you have any NA people that we should watch out for?
Yeah. I mean, on the NA side, for moving over to like 3v3 format, I think the Ape Squad. I mean, I've seen them perform. I know all of them pretty well, and I think that this last format was probably the hardest thing for them. And I think that we're just going to see a whole new team going into 3v3. And I see a lot of heads nodding, so I think y'all agree with me.
No, I agree with that. I think that they're a good one to watch. I also expect to see Team De do a lot better than they have been doing. They had a lot of subs that they had to handle, but hopefully if the full squad is there, I'm a De fan, and I really hope that we see them perform in a way that they haven't they haven't done before. And before we move on, have we spoken about Reset yet?
No, talk all you want about Reset. What would you like to say?
I just want to give a shout out to Reset for playing their absolute hearts out. I mean, Reset kind of got smacked a little bit. They did not have, when you look at the number of placements, Reset had a lot of fourth places. They had the most fourth places, I believe, in the, they had the most fourth places in the entire season between all the teams. But they showed up every single play day. They never complained. They put their hearts into it, and they did their absolute best. And it is so easy to continue playing when you're on top, but it is so hard to continue playing when you are not on top. And I just want to give a huge shout out to those guys.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that they have done well. I personally also really like the name Timmy Tim. Every time I'm able to say it casting, it just rolls off the tongue. And I think that they have a good team. So yeah, kudos to them. And I think you're right. You highlighted probably one of the most important things, that like just showing up and consistently playing, even if you're struggling, is a just unique part of this game and this scene as well. So yeah, I think they have a lot of heart and a lot of possibility to them. But let's now kind of look at the overall storylines. Let's take a kind of an overall overhead view, and I kind of want to break it down into NA versus EU. And Burritah, you are the man that's involved in both sides. So to you, what is the biggest difference? If you could sum it up, I guess maybe first off, do you notice a difference? And if you do, kind of what is it?
Yeah, I think a couple of things like EU. We've always known this is EU plays like a slower, more tactical, more focused kind of game. We've always kind of known that about them, but it's really apparent in the finals. That's why people like Carnifex really stand out so much, especially in EU, is like he plays a very NA play style. Like he's aggressive, he's in your face, like he's pushing hard. And that's like not the way a lot of these EU teams play quite as often. I think the other thing is something that got pointed out in chat, but like so few Cerberuses in EU, like no shotguns in EU. Like everyone's running assault rifles for the most part, which I thought was really interesting. I think we see slightly more sledges in the EU as well, and I think we see folks take a little more risks as far as, you know, like running goo, running sledge, running bow. You know, running the ARN, you know, maybe running slightly different loadouts. So I would say that's one of the things I've really noticed about EU.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, a perfect take on it. I've seen a lot of the same stuff, but Walt, same question to you. Have you noticed kind of anything?
I definitely agree. I think there's a more measured approach in the EU side of things. I think that's why we see them hold on to Invis on lights. You don't see Invis in NA pretty much at all. Even players that were very consistent about playing Invis. They were always an Invis fan. That they moved over to Dash. That's just the way you play light in NA now. Whereas EU still holds on to the Invis. It's still kind of the way to play the game. Whereas, and I think, and they also see a little bit of sort of mesh. Mesh is, I think, a little bit more picked on the NA side of things. Whereas a lot of EU teams definitely still like to move towards their winch claws. Not that we don't see it in both. Winch claw is kind of still on top, but I feel like we still see NA with a little bit of the mesh shield, and I think that's because of the aggression. Like when you talk about the Cerberus as well, it's like if you want to be in someone's face, would you rather have an FCAR? Would you rather have a Cerberus? The answer is always the Cerberus. And because you're making these aggressive plays, you want whatever gets you in. You want whatever gets you the most damage up close. And I think that's been the biggest kind of difference in terms of those two.
Yeah, that's basically what I've noticed as well. I was going to point out Mesh Shield because it's just weird to see because it seems to have more of a prevalence on the NA side. And I'm a little surprised by it because like people have wised up to it by now and you just bring that glitch grenade and you just get rid of it. And then you're down a utility and like you're kind of exposed. So I think that they then also normally kind of bundle that up with a Dome Shield so that they can kind of play off of it and kind of time those as well. But just interesting that the NA side and EU side, they do have different play styles. And for those of you that watching are wondering kind of why we're even bringing this up, it's because the playoffs, after we get past this, they will be playing against each other. So we're going to see a clash of these two play styles who have been developing on their own and see what is better. And I'm that's what I'm so excited about because like we're gonna find out, and it's gonna be cool because I can almost guarantee you it's gonna shift kind of the meta in the overall game towards maybe we need to play more aggressive, or no, maybe we need to stop playing so aggressive and play a little bit slower down, and just kind of how we pick stuff. So that's my take on it, and I think that we've really kind of brought up a lot. But there's one other thing that we have kind of in our notes, and that's the death of the heal beam. I think that that's a great point. Does anybody want to talk about that? Because I think that's a really interesting thing that we've seen from going from breakout to where we are now. So I think, Waltz, why don't you go ahead and take this one to start this off?
Yeah, we've been seeing a slow death of heal beam ever since the beginning of season 4. Like you said, breakout, they were still running it. It was still pretty much consistent. And I can't tell if Burritah is sneezing or if he really disagrees with my point.
Breaks my heart.
But heal beam just doesn't show up anymore. When we talked to Nagost on one of the previous episodes, he said that you can just play like a light with DMAT, and I think that kind of tells you all you need to know about DMAT and how good it is, because lights are so useful, and there's a reason why most people run light, medium, heavy. And if your medium can move around like that, it does so much. Also, especially when you have heavies that are using a lot more movement now, the ability to DMAT a wall, have your heavy spin up a minigun if he's running that, or run sledge, the ability to just move a cash out wherever you want it, especially with winch. Those two combined, I think, not only make heal beam worse, but they make winch better. And the better winch gets, the less incentivized you are to run medium, because when you're only running one medium, you have to make a choice between the two. And the game is just too fast right now. The fights are just too kind of in your face for heel beam to actually work. It worked when it was long range pickoff fights and we would just see grenade spam. I actually think that the death of frag grenade might have been one of the reasons we no longer see heel beam.
And you know what? It is in a good place now, because going against, honestly, it was really funny and annoying in the scene. Because for those of you that don't know, the grenade rule, where you only have one grenade, kind of was implemented in the competitive scene because they would limit it where only one person could run grenades. Because if you had a team of 3 people with 2 grenades each, all you have to know is, hey, a team is most likely in that corner or in this room. And then boom, 6 grenades are going off in a room, and it was just toxic. It was not competitive. It was annoying. So I personally really like the nerf to it. And Waltz, I think that you have a great, mind for picking up on that, because I think you're right on. I think that is part of what contributed to it. And also at the same time, we did see a nerf to the healing beam as well. So it had where it was getting overcharged quicker, and so that all just kind of contributed to it. But yeah, I think if people are interested, go back and listen to the interview with Nagos, because they ran two mediums that ran DMATs, and both of them, and they just got in and out, and they ended up winning the Ruby Grind event, mainly because of their movement. So I think that there's just a lot to kind of bring in about that one is used way more than the other, and I think that we can see why. But yeah.
I think the last thing I would like to speak about when we kind of talk about the storylines as well is where the heavy meta is at, because we talked about like light is pretty much played, but realistically it's you're playing one of 2 weapons, right? You're playing the ARN or you're playing XP, and we just talked about how prevalent DMAT is. There is some flexibility in the meta, but most of that flexibility is actually on the side of the heavies right now, which I think is really interesting, and that's a very new place for us to be. For the longest time, you didn't run anything different on heavy, but in the last couple months, we've seen Sledge make an appearance. We've seen Minigun make an appearance thanks to Busy. We've seen a lot of weapons. M60 with some of the buffs is now getting play. Pretty much everything but Spear is getting play. SA12 is still there, but it's not as common. Is that has any of that what's been your thoughts on sort of the changing meta, Burritah, a little bit from the heavy side of things?
Burritah?
Or Rio,
Oh, apologies. I thought you were asking Rio.
No, I'm asking you. What do you think about the heavy meta? Because you've been watching for a very long time.
I like to see the variety. I guess I just wish I saw things change up a little bit more. I do appreciate that things are quite a bit different. At least it's not just like SA12 and Mesh all the time, which was basically the first 3 seasons. I think the way that people have played around their dome is very much an Ape Squad kind of impact on the meta, is the way that these people play around their barricades and their dome shields is a very tidy, very just take 3 to 5 business days to kill them kind of move that I think is actually really helpful. And I am really excited to see people running even just a couple other weapons other than the SA12. I know it's basically all SA Sledge and Minigun, and I'm personally a huge Sledge enjoyer, but it's nice to see just actually a little bit of change up in the meta and with some of the weapons.
Definitely room for improvement.
Yeah. And I mean, my take on it's pretty much the same. I think that it's been unique to see that's kind of where the people are playing around, and it's no longer kind of the center or the main. Now, I hesitate to say that. It's not the key to a good team isn't your heavy. It's kind of now all well-rounded team play, and I think that we've seen also a shift too from you're saying in the first 3 seasons we had kind of a very set meta. There weren't even lights in play. We didn't see lights in the competitive scene at all. And I've had other conversations with other casters how fun it is to see a light, medium, heavy kind of become the dominant play style. I think to me that's exciting. I think to me the game is in such a unique state right now that it seems very well balanced, and that's even possible. That it wasn't possible, and it now is just makes me excited, especially for going forward with the 3v3s. So
Oh yeah. And speaking of the 3v3s, like you said, we're about to get into the playoffs. So going back to the league structure, we just finished essentially a very long group stage, and we now have our final team standings, and we're now going through a regional playoff. So teams are staying in their regions. They're still going to be playing just against NA teams and just against EU teams. No cross regional play yet, but we have a double elimination tournament essentially between these teams to see who is the best at 3v3, and they're going to have a chance to prove that maybe they're not the best at cash out, but they are really, really good at just this one-on-one mano-a-mano environment. So the teams that do really well right now, the top 2 teams from group stages do automatically qualify to the interregional championship, but there's still 4 more slots left in our playoffs, and you get a lot of points from these playoffs, so there's still a lot of room for teams to perform well. And that's kind of the next topic of our conversation is, moving in and looking at this next step. What do we think is going to change up in the playoffs, and who are we looking to really, really perform if we had to choose a top pick?
Ooh, okay. So what are we looking for? I can take this one just to start it off on. What are we looking for? I think that we're looking for just more of team play. I think what's interesting about the previous mode is that there's a lot of randomness that can happen in it, and a lot of that randomness kind of gets removed. So you're going to really see what teams have that kind of cohesion, what teams have that kind of strategy and team play that might have been a little bit harder to tell in the previous mode. So that's just the first thing to me. And from that, we're also just going to see which meta is better too, because there's something to say about like when you're going up against a 3 versus 3 where you can't really be flanked a ton without your team noticing, and whereas going to cash out where you could have a whole other team flanking you, so you kind of make your picks on your weapons a little bit around that. And I just think that it's just going to be kind of little changes like that. So that's just my things that I'm looking forward to. Top teams though, oh man, that's going to be hard. I don't know. Like I think that it's going to be such a mix up. I really do, because like I don't know. We haven't really seen these teams play in 3v3 formats since the qualifiers, and some of them we didn't even see in the qualifiers. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know. But Burritah, what's your take on what we on the next part?
I'm really excited for it. I think it's been the way we've always kind of looked at competitive. I think the teams are actually going to be more excited to play this than they have been this season. I think teams are going to come in like hype and ready. Like we've heard the players loud and clear that like Cashout was maybe a little unfun, maybe sometimes kind of uncompetitive, maybe not necessarily, what they've trained for, but this is what they've trained for. This is what they work on. Yeah. This is the type of game that they try to play a lot. So I imagine we're going to see our teams playing a lot more dialed, a lot more focused. But also now they have to lock in, because really some of these teams, if they don't play well on Saturday, this is the end of their run for the league. Some teams might only play one more game in the whole league. That might be it for them. So we have 4 teams that are going to only play one map, potentially.
Wow.
It's really sudden death down in that lower bracket. So it's going to be hard to see some of our teams leave, but I think we're going to see a lot of our teams really lock in, because I think until the end of the season, some teams didn't take this quite as seriously. And I think we're really going to see them start to lock in, especially as we get a little bit closer to Embark's Major.
Oh yeah, and this is the time to shine. Like you said, some teams aren't going to have much opportunity to show off, and maybe that does come down to the randomness of cash out. Like if you're not the Aimerz or a Brick team and you're not getting first place consistently, you can often be at the mercy of the other teams. But now you have a little bit more room to breathe. When you get a team wipe, you now have a chance to set up the fight, and you can set up your defense in the way that you want it to be. Whereas before, you could not lose 2 people in a fight. You needed to win a fight convincingly, because you might just get third party, and if you weren't ready for that, you're going to be in trouble. Now, it really does. You can just use all of your utility in one fight. You had to be a lot more measured. And And obviously, some people could handle it. Like obviously, we saw Brick do really, really well in Cashout, and some teams are very, very good at that moment-to-moment decision making. But I think you're right. It's like the decision making becomes a little bit more straightforward in these two-team matches, and so yeah, I think you guys were talking earlier about how Oni Legends have a lot to gain from this 3 versus 3. I think teams like Team Dih have a chance to really kind of step up, and we've seen players like Uni absolutely destroy in tournaments before, and he hasn't really done that in the Cashout. I mean, they got fourth place, so they were doing well. It's not that he was doing poorly, but we haven't seen players like Uni on top the way they often are in previous events. And I think you're going to start to see those players who have like incredible aim, incredible like positioning. That's going to start to shine a little bit more because we can see kind of that focus.
Yeah, no, I agree. Uni is a great example of that because, the man is just insane. And I think that we will see some people like that haven't really popped off yet just absolutely pop off. And I can't wait. It's just going to be so excited. Do you guys have an underrated team pick? Somebody that maybe from the cash out format or didn't kind of shine the way you did and think that they might really take the shine in this next one? So Waltz, we'll start with you. Who's your underrated team?
Ironically, my dark horse team is going to be Dark Horse.
Okay.
And very aptly so. But I think Dark Horse has really, really impressed me. They started off and they were not doing well through their first couple of play days. And then they kind of figured things out. All of a sudden, they started putting it together. And Sparrow in particular has been one of the most clutch light players I have ever seen. Like he is consistently cleaning up and winning 1 versus 2s that his team has queued up for him. That's what you need in 3v3s. You need that consistency because you can get third partied and oftentimes you're going to lose those fights in cash out. But in 3 versus 3s, what really matters is that you have a guy who's ready to follow up on the damage that you do, who can jump in. And all 3 of those, Corbra as well, has also been just a rock for his team. When Eric gets the damage in, when Eric has been kind of making those movements, Corbra is right behind him as well as Sparrow. So that team is a team that I think has been slept on. I would not be surprised to see them do very well.
Interesting. What about you, Burritah? Who's your kind of sleeper in this next stage?
I'm gonna do this this is like vibes based. This is more like what would make me the most happy to see, and it's to see Oni Legends make a run for it. I think they are in a perfect position to like prove why they were invited to replace a team in this league. Like, I think everybody knows that they're a good team. Everybody knows they're playing at a good level, but I want to see them like come in and really kind of thrive. So like, they're my team I'm watching because again, they have spent a lot of time in 3v3s. So they're going to be playing their game finally. And I'm hoping that they feel a lot more comfortable. Well, what are you thinking, Rio?
I really am thinking the Scallywags. I have seen them play. I have not seen them pop off like I had hoped, and I just think that they're just slightly hindered by the game mode. I know that they're going to be the team that everybody is just a little bit afraid of going into this next one. So that's my pick. We're going to be finding out here Saturday just kind of how everything starts to unfold. But those are our picks for the underrated team. But I think that leads us to a really interesting one. Let's start with you, Waltz. If you had to build a dream team for the finals, if you were their coach and you wanted to kind of build a team. You were hiring them and be like, all right, you come play for me. This is now Team Waltz. Who is on Team Waltz?
Okay, this was really, really hard to do because I think there's so many amazing players. And I realized that I actually basically came up with an NA team and an EU team. Pretty much. My top picks are, so I'm going to give you like my top picks, but then I kind of want to talk through it a little bit.
Okay.
I think if I had to pick a light player to put on my team, I want a team that kind of like, I think would sync well in sort of their play style together, that would kind of do things the way that would work together. So Lasky is a light player that I would love to put on a team. Lasky has consistently impressed me with his positioning, and there have been so many times I've seen him sit there, invis, just watch two players walk by, completely ignore them, let his team know where they are, and then beam the third guy as he walks through and immediately start a fight in a 3 versus 2. The patience to wait, the knowingness that his team needs that information and not jumping the gun. Amazing stuff from Last Gay. So he's probably one of my favorites. If it wasn't Last Gay, it's probably has to be Uni. I'm a Uni fan. I think that guy's amazing. And then for my medium, I think I'd pick Lasagna. It was a hard choice between Lasagna or Sugi. Sugi is also one of my top picks, but I think Lasagna is a bit of a scientist in the game. One of the people who really kind of brought in gas mines at first. He won a tournament, won the Jungle Jam tournament off of gas mines, is a fantastic shot caller in game, similar to a Telco, I think, in a lot of ways. So probably Lasagna. And then for heavy, I think I got to go Llama. I'm a little biased. I love watching Llama. I think he's great. The stuff he does with Sledge, I think, actually would play really, really well with his team as well. So those would be my my choices, actually.
Interesting picks. I think that you'll have some surprises when it comes to my list. But before we get there, Burritah, who's your dream team on Team Taco Bell?
I think I have to take a very data-based approach to this.
Okay.
I love all of our players. I mean, everyone, we couldn't have done this without all these amazing people coming through, and to really sit down and try and put one together was really freaking hard for me. But if I had to put one together, I'm going Llama. I love the sledgehammer, and he actually had the second highest kills for any heavy.
No,
and was
that's
number
crazy.
23 in the kills overall. So
Wow.
Oh my god.
he had more kills than Mickey as a sledge. So
Wow.
My God.
All right, Mickey, you got called out.
Not a call out, just an observation as to why I picked
Mickey,
him
you've
as
been
my
called
heavy.
out by Burritah. Says you're not getting enough kills.
And then I think for my light, thankfully I was able to lean back on Saints 1 and get someone because he has the most kills of anyone in the league, and is just like
Interesting.
EU GOAT. So, but he has the single highest kills of anyone in the league. So
By how
that's
much?
exactly
Do you
what I
remember?
want in a light. And then
Someone-
lastly, I guess, leading up the team on medium. This was the hardest one for me, absolutely. But then once I really took a step back and thought about it, I got to go No-X. I am a
Yeah, that's a good
huge
choice.
AKM fan. I think he's an absolute sleeper agent. I've done actually a lot of the math on his career so far, and it felt wrong not to pick a Telco for like the first time ever. But I'm going No-X with my pick.
Oh, I can't disagree with that. That's such a good pick, actually.
Okay, so yeah, this is going to be really interesting, guys. These are my picks because all of them have already been said. That's what's interesting about this. If I were to go with light, I would definitely pick Uni. I enjoy watching him play. I think the man is just insane with his aim. I think that he has strategy out the wazoo. I'm just always impressed when I see that man play. For my medium, I actually went with you, Burritah, and No-X as well. I think that he is the most kind of underrated player right now. I think that he has a lot really working for him. Just solid player. That's all I keep seeing every time I kind of look at him play. And yeah, I think that's a really good player. And then on the heavy side, also Llama. Yeah, because I love the bonks. The bonks were fun. The man came in. People were not expecting a sledge in the Pro League, and the man just delivers time and time again. So that's my dream team. If they were all on Team Rio, I think that they would dominate pretty hardcore. Yeah, those are my picks.
Wow, yeah, a lot of spread there. No-X is going to be insufferable after this. Just no end to it, but I love it. Well deserved. And let us know what your dream team would be if you're watching live. Let us know in the chat. If you're watching the video, let us know what your dream team would be for the Pro League if you've been watching in the comments below. And we'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear what your takes are, whether it's stats based or whether it's vibes based. But we're getting near the end. but did we have any specific players that we wanted to shout out? Now, maybe they weren't at the top or anything like that, but I know we had that listed down, and I want to give you two the chance to kind of throw a couple names out there that have really been kind of catching your eye.
Oh, notable players. I mean, outside of the people that we just listed, Spawns has been really good. I really, all of the Ape Squad guys, I'm really impressed with kind of every time they come out. Another person that I think I've seen it continues to improve me because I think that he's starting to mature in Mr. Derp. He's been around in the scene for a while, and I'm just starting to kind of see him become kind of a well-rounded player as well. So those are just kind of my quick off the top of my head. Those are all NA though. Let me think. EU side, basically Gungala, their whole side is amazing. Jurgen, Laske, even the Divine Dead side. I really like Alone in Paris. I think that really seen a lot of good plays from him and even Ollie. So, but I think it's so hard to just narrow it down. Every person kind of comes to mind, and there are a lot of really good stuff going on in every team. So. What about you, Waltz? Who stands out?
Ooh, I was all ready for Burritah to jump in, but I can absolutely do that. If I had to, players that I really enjoyed watching that maybe did not quite do as well as they could have, things like that. But Jurgen is a favorite of mine. I love watching Jurgen. Obviously, we are Gungala stands here on the on the podcast, but also Velo and Airshoe. Are two players that I quite enjoy watching. Velo, I think, has been quite rounded in what he can play, and Airshoe is just always. I mean, the whole team is great, but those two I always just enjoy watching. They're always fantastic. And then, kind of on the other side of things, when it comes to the other team, I do think that Normalize is a player that I think is better than results show. I think he has a lot of runway left for him to figure things out, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the future. So probably a shout out to him, I think, would be one, and then probably a bit of one out there, but Varian actually on Make a Wish is a player that I've seen a lot more lately. I've seen him absolutely pop off. The guy is a bit of a sleeper. Make-A-Wish have not done well, but I don't think that's his fault. I think Varian is going to turn things around, and I think we're going to see a lot of him in the future.
That's awesome. Burritah, take us out. Who do you think?
Yeah.
Who is kind of been? Who do you?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, just saying. Who deserves a shout out?
my play style, as at least Waltz can attest, is like W key, but also support. So I gotta give a shout out to my medium goats out here doing the absolute most. So Arock had the highest average support score of any medium in the game and was just an absolute beast on the kill side with that Revo. So I got to give mad shout outs to Arock, and I got to give shout outs to YOLO2D, 104 revives. There was only 2 people that had over 100 revives.
Oh my God.
But YOLO2D on Reset had 104. Which is just remarkable when you when you consider, that's basically 30 team wipes he single-handedly avoided. There could have been an additional 30, but that man was not standing for it.
He was ready.
Just absolutely got to shout that out.
That's incredible.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that we've talked a lot about this season, this league, and everything that we have seen so far. Do we kind of want to talk a little bit about season 1, or do we just want to tease that it's here? Burritah, I'll let you be the decision maker there.
I would say we can chat about it. It's leaks, but it's not really finalized, so it's all subject to change, but I'm happy to chat through it. We're definitely going to be doing one. I think sooner than later, but hard. I don't have any actual dates or anything locked down just yet, so I'm happy to chat through it, but we don't have anything just yet, but definitely more details to come, soon TM. But happy to answer any questions you might have now.
Yeah. I think really just the biggest question to me was, is it happening? And I think that you've just said yes, because we've seen people come into the chat and ask like, hey, when is my team going to be able to try this out? When am I going to be able to play in something like this? And Burritah just gave you the answer. Soon, TM. But it's definitely going to happen. And I think that's so exciting. And yeah, I can't wait. If it's anything like season 0, I just know that it's going to be 10 times as more fun and just more exciting. And I really hope we see some new blood. But Waltz, what are your thoughts on kind of moving into season 1?
I'm really excited to see what season 1 looks like. Season 0 has been amazing, but like you said, there's been some growing pains. There's definitely been moments where it's like, oh, this could be better. And there is such a talented team working on the Pro League. I'll let Burritah run through kind of all the people working on it in a second, because it is the people working on this are so passionate and so dedicated and so talented. It humbles me every day chatting with these guys. So I am firmly ready to believe that what we get next season is going to be incredible. I think we're going to see streamlining of the group stages. I think we're going to see some adjustments to like how we actually get teams in, things like that. So I'm just excited I think there's a lot of room to grow, and I know that the team cares about making it better. So I'm excited that we're going to keep building this and keep continuing the scene. But Burritah, you know a lot of the people that have been working on this. Let's give some shout outs to people who have made this possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to give shout outs. I mean, we have our credits at the end of it, but like that really doesn't sum up how much work some of these guys do. So RMRX built our website, is always populating the website in real time. He watches every single stream and is like punching in numbers in real time. Absolutely incredible work, and we send him just new feature requests all the time, implements them in real time, is always cooking up cool new features for the website. It has really just made it like so much easier to do what has historically been one of the most difficult parts of all this. Of course, got to give a shout out to Akuda for these very cool borders that are around us, and some of our other graphics that he helped out quite a bit with. Ved, who helped us kind of unbust the schedule. He created like a full-on algorithm to help us better sort the teams to make sure we had more even matchups. Human and Waltz, who helped me get through the qualifiers and get map bans done, doing map bans for 24 teams who may have never actually even played a competitive game in their life was very interesting, and they really helped us through it. Gopher and Maid help manage all the chats on the Discord, and that is just something I couldn't be arsed to do, so I'm so grateful for them. I couldn't imagine doing it. It's like making them be Facebook content moderators or something. It feels bad, but I appreciate them so much. And really Mickey, someone, and their significant others also have just done so much for the league, for the formats, for just supporting us. Shout out to my wife for putting up with all of this, because I've been, it's been a lot of hours working in this on stream, off stream, being locked in. So I'm just super grateful for the amazing team we have. You guys, the casters. I mean, I've only had to cast one time, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's not my favorite thing. I'm not gonna lie, but like I'm truly humbled that y'all have come through week after week. We get all the players every week. We get 2 casters every week. We have the teams here. We have our amazing fans and supporters, and we have we're able to really make something happen. And I'm just so grateful for the whole community and everybody that's really come through and made this happen.
Yeah. It only gets better from here. There's only more. Any final thoughts from you two before we close this out? Because I think it's a great way to kind of cap it off. So final thoughts from you, Rio?
I think that it's been an amazing experience. I love interacting with the players. I love interacting with you chat members. And I think that, Burritah listed everybody in the back end but himself. And I think that that's really the man that I have been wanting to have Burritah on our show since we started, because to me, he really is kind of the backbone of this scene, the league. So this is a man who does a lot, and Burritah, I'm sorry, I'm just shouting your praises, but you deserve it. And there's a reason we're here today, and it's literally that guy. So those are my thoughts. Waltz, what are yours as we wrap up on episode 12?
I think Burritah kind of said it, but the final person we need to shout out really is the community tuning in, being here, throwing in wild copy pastas into the chat, and just making sure to support everything, because that's been such a huge part of it. It doesn't happen if everyone else isn't there watching. And we really appreciate you guys being there. So it's going to keep going. Make sure you keep tuning in. Tell everyone else about it, because this is the beginning of something really, really cool. There's a lot of really exciting stuff on the horizon. So make sure you stick around. Drop a follow onto the Pro Hub's Twitch. And if you want to keep all up to date with all of the information about the pro scene, not just pro leagues, but everything else going on, make sure to check out the Vault. Rio and I do this podcast pretty regularly. We have interviews with all kinds of people involved in the scene and just kind of break down everything going on. So make sure to check us out there as well. But right now, that's basically going to be it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been really fun to kind of dig into the nitty-gritty of the scene. And that's pretty much all we have for right now, though. So we're going to go ahead and call it here, but we'll see you guys next time on The Vault.
Have a good one, everybody.